When you build a product which caters to children, you sell to kids or you sell to parents? What were you doing to verify that this iteration is working out, this is not working
So
out?
we did qualitative and quantitative surveys. I think the journey starts with first you need to build a quality function diagram where you are able to do a qualitative need analysis and do a quantified weighted metric analysis to what subsystem will be in your product.
One question on the investment side. There must have been folks who would have asked you, what if a Chinese player comes in and builds something similar? What is the typical, what would a response be for that?
Just one single store in the US last holiday, one single outlet sold 700 units in the month of December.
Hi, I'm Apurv Shankar, and welcome to another episode of The Hardware Story, a podcast wherein we decode how to build hardware ventures. India is going to have a large manufacturing ecosystem in the next decade, and we need more founders out of India building hardware ventures of their own. The idea of the podcast is to make it simpler for anyone starting out to build their hardware venture and learn from the experiences of folks who've built it before. Today, our guest is Sneh, the co founder and CEO of Miko Robotics, a global deep tech consumer robotics company built out of India. This is also one of the first consumer hardware company out of India in the last decade who's grown massively at this scale in the global markets. Welcome to the show, Sneh.
Thank you, Apurv. Thank you for having me here.
Let's just get started with a little bit background about you. When did you start? How did you start? And what is the product about?
Sure. So we started Miko in 2015. We are in our 10th year of operations. I was joined by my two co-founders, Prashant and Chintan. All of us have been batchmates from IIT Bombay. The whole idea was how can we leverage deep technology to solve unmet societal needs. In this process, we realized that through the past few decades, there'd been a constant decline in social emotional well-being of the younger generation. If you see documented reports across the globe where physical activity is coming down, reading levels are coming down, impatience levels are increasing of kids, and so on. There's been a constant decline in social emotional well-being. COVID added more challenges to the whole journey of in that regards. So we started with doing a lot of qualitative surveys in parents with parents. We started speaking to a lot of families, understanding kids, how parents want to, what parents needs are, what a child's needs are. After spending almost few months of this entire process, we started identifying the need in the process, and there was a very empirical journey to arriving at that need in 2015. So we spent almost 2 years to arrive at the product, which involved 23 product pilots across 50,000 plus kids, all out of Mumbai, and a team of 6 to 7 extremely sharp builders who are doing this with a lot of conviction. When we started speaking to parents, we realized that 80% of parents realized the benefits of technology, because at the same time they saw every other child in the classroom had access to it. They didn't want their kids to be missing out on things, but they were not comfortable handing over tablets, phones to their young kids at the young age. And this is a global phenomenon. Like, they don't have a choice. So we saw it as an opportunity. If technology comes in a form factor which is loved by a child and trusted by a parent, and it is addressing the needs of the child and the parent, then there's a good value proposition for the whole family. Keeping that in mind, after analyzing the needs of kids, we then realized that, hey, uh, there is a strong element of character that is played in the life of a child. If we are able to bring a character to life leveraging robotics, and this character is built with a purpose of addressing social emotional well-being and needs of the child, then there's a value proposition that can be achieved. With that thought process, we started prototyping, built prototypes. The advantage of our team was that if a regular hardware startup would take 3 months to build a prototype, with our past experience, we were able to get from a whiteboard concept to prototype in 15-20 days. So we were able to roll out prototypes, deploy them in schools, deploy them in homes, see the impact, see whether they are liked, not liked. Often we used to go back, junk it, restart, and that entire process went on for almost 2.5 years. In that journey, we ultimately arrived at launching the first companion robot of India, which was Miko, the first generation of our product. It was launched at that time. India at that time the consumer of India had not even experienced voice activated technology.
This was what year?
2017.
17.
Even Alexas and Google Homes were not launched at that point of time. This was way early at that point of time, and we wanted the consumer to basically experience a product that roams around at home autonomously, talks to them, interacts with them, and has a purpose of assisting a parent in their parenting needs, helping a child, assisting a child in the day-to-day needs of the child, and reporting quantified metrics back to the parent on how well the child is doing.
Okay.
So we wanted to complete the whole loop where a parent gives feedback at that these are my expectations. The platform works on it, comes back with a report card, and the parent, this recursive loop goes on and on. So the platform was evolving into an assistant to assist a parent in their parenting journey, and at the same time it was becoming like a companion to the child in the whole journey. So this, we for 1 year we did door-to-door selling in Mumbai. We had a sales team of 4 guys. I was one of them. We used to go in every home, collect leads, show the product, explain the concept, sell it. It was a 20,000 rupee product at that point of time. Parents used to understand the value proposition, and we earlier thought that it's for the cream of the cream audiences in Mumbai. They used to buy it, of course, but at the same time we also saw that the products were being purchased in outskirts of Mumbai. We had sales in places where we never thought we would be able to sell products. We were able to sell products right in just outside the perimeter of Mumbai. We had sales in Palghar, in Raigad. I sold units in Dharavi, and we saw that once parents understood that this is the value proposition, we had a lot of families that we put together some savings to buy a laptop or an iPad for my child. Let me leave that. I'll go and try a Miko. So there we realize that if there's a need, and if your product is delivering on that need, then there are buyers for the product. So keeping that in mind, we started improvising it further, got into looking at scale, wanting to aspire more scale. We launched the product into retail. Uh, Hamleys and Chroma were our first retail partners in India. And at the same time, we also launched it with Flipkart. It was an exclusive launch with Flipkart. They didn't have a category at that time. So they created a new category called Smart Assistants. And then they launched the product. And we're the only product in that category.
And when was this again?
2017, 18.
17?
Yeah.
Oh,
This was
retail also
the
you were in
last
17
quarter of 2017 was when retail started. And the first quarter to last quarter, we were doing door-to-door selling, going home to home, selling our products. Like selling 20-30 units a month, and we were very happy ki chalo we made some sales
nice.
and so on.
No, but I think building the product itself in 2 years is commendable.
Yes.
Yeah. Typically, we've seen at least so far in products in this category also, we'll get to the complexities of how it really gets built, but it takes at least 2 to 3 years to get the product from idea to product. So commendable.
And so that entire journey, once retail started, sales started growing month on month, and retail expansion footprint grew. It was achieving success inside the retail stores, and then institutional capital came in to further grow the business from there.
Got it. You touched upon how the product helps a parent know more about how the well-being of the kid is. Can you give us an example of how that works out?
So we basically focus on social emotional metrics. These are SEL metrics which are very well documented, some cognitive skills as well. And through its journey of engagement with the child, the robot is also trying to understand what is the physical activity, how much time is the child engaged in games and playing, or how are the speaking skills, whether the child is empathetic in the way the child communicates, how well are these skills, and it is then reporting it back in a consolidated report back on an app to a parent on how well the child is doing. Okay. You see, the world has come from a place where we now have robot vacuum cleaners at home, where you press a button, they'll clean and give you a report on what corners of the home they've cleaned. We are entering an age where AI is going to come in everyone's life as a assistant, or as a co-pilot, or an assistant in your day-to-day productivity. It will also enter into multiple domains to assist us in parenting, in childhood, in elderly care, and so on and so forth. So in these domains, the role of these systems will ultimately become where they are working on your instructions and giving you quantified outcomes on what is the progress. So it's the parent who's in the driving seat. We don't make claims that the robot will take you from level 1 to level 3. You decide what is level 1 and you decide what is level 3. The robot is going to work in that direction, come back to you like a AI coach. And we feel that the next decade of parenting is going to be in such manner itself, where every family will have assistance for different elements in their house. And so this is one of the core areas where we thought is a great problem to solve, and we started working on it all through the last decade.
Got it. And any specific reason why you wanted to build in this space?
So I think first and foremost, it's a that when you build a new technology, there is a certain amount of time it takes to bring the technology from 0 to 95% readiness. And from 0 to 90, the amount of time it takes the same amount of time to go from 90 to 95. And ultimately the same amount of time it will take, or even more, it will go from 99.1 to 99.5.
Yeah.
uh, to engage a child, you do not need the threshold of readiness of your technology in terms of, like, I'll give you a very simple example. uh, we had built a technology for triangulating sound, and one of when we were in college, we were able to triangulate sound in underwater environments. And within that situation, where suppose there's a gas pipe leakage in an oil and gas setup, so we were able to triangulate the sound so that a diver can go to that location and repair the pipe and save a lot of downtime for that oil and gas processing facility. So your triangulation has to be accurate up to 99.9% accuracy. It has to, because it needs to triangulate way far away, and the diver should go there. To get to that point, you would probably need 2 years to build it, and when our first initial prototypes were at 80%, and to get to that point, it would take a good amount of time to build it. But then over here, very simple, that a child is clapping and the robot turns around and looks at the child. Very simple. You do not need 99.9% accuracy there. Even a 90% accuracy, the child is more than happy. So the time to market becomes much faster for you to build. So you are building deep technology. In 10 years of time, you'll have the best levels of technology in your entire product. But the time to market becomes much faster when it is a product for the younger generation overall. When you're building a deep tech product for the younger generation.
Got it.
We didn't want to be doing R&D in a shell for 10 years. That was not what we wanted to do. We wanted from 2015 to 2025. In 2025, we should be a strong brand. We should have the best technology, and the market would have evolved significantly to adopt our brand as well. So keeping that in mind, we wanted to enter into a space where we could quickly enter the market, keep reiterating, advancing, and getting to the right milestones as the fastest possible. We had two options. We could get into elderly care or into childcare and so on. And these were the two domains that we saw a lot of uh, demand for real solution, and nothing was existing at that point of
Got
time.
it.
With the elderly care, native languages needs are a very, very, like, it's a little more tougher
Yeah.
overall to address that market. So therefore we decided to get into the child space, and that's how the journey started.
Got it. And when you started, none of you were fathers as such. You didn't see
not
a
even
problem. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So it was more about understanding where the market is going and trying to see where we can find an opportunity. Where is this opportunity in the robotics, and which you anyway has a skill set around that, and plug your solution into that opportunity, right?
Yes.
Got it. Nice. And what markets do you cater to right now? What is the scale of operations?
Majorly, we are focused on the US. We've shipped almost 500,000 devices globally,
Oh, wow.
from which we are right now 95% of our market last year was the US. But now we've also started expanding into more geographies. We get sales from Middle East, we get sales from India, we get sales from a lot of Asian countries as well. But US has been the major growth driver historically, which is there, and we would get into having soon crossing 1 million installed base in the coming quarters.
Okay, very cool. What is the current stage of the company in terms of investments raised?
So we've raised almost 50 million, more than $50 million of venture capital money in within the business. We've just at the cusp of profitability. This year we will be profitable. We're trying to be cash positive throughout the year as well, and at the same time continue to grow the business at a 60-70% CAGR from here on. So from a 40-45 million top line, we want to get it to a 70% growth rate from here, and hopefully cross 125 million over the next 2 years, and then try to get to an IPO situation.
Oh, very cool. How far do you think that's going to be, the IP situation?
We're trying for 24 months. Let's
Oh.
hope for the best.
All the best for that. Would be lovely to see that. And one thing I wanted to check was, when you build a product which caters to children, you sell to kids or you sell to parents?
That's a great question, and the answer changes by the market also. I think the go-to market for each country is varied, because your user is the child and the buyer is the parent. Initially, we were all about explaining and convincing and selling to the parent when we started in India, because our product price points were 20,000. So explain to the parent the nutritive benefits and sell to them and explain to them. But then over a period of time, we realized that in a lot of countries, the knack factor that a child has is very high. So we also showcase the personality of the character to the child. The child is the first one who starts the conversations at home, that you know what, there's Miko and I want to try it. And then the parent starts looking around and checking, let me explore about this product, what it is. Then the parent proactively looks for the product, understands the product, understands the nutritive gains, and then we sell it to the product. So each market has a story of its own in terms of how you address that market, depending on the stage of maturity of that market and the kind of products we want to push into that market. Now we have Mikos at different price points.
Yeah.
So the strategy for each product changes likewise.
Got it. For the first product, how did it work out, let's say for the US? Then because there is limited access to a child also, right? You can't like push on ads for
You
a
cannot.
child, right? You can't make sure that they are there in the retail stores when people are coming. Actually, retail stores might still make sense. But what channel do you think worked out the best?
So I think a lot of ways kids go and watch movies in theaters.
Yeah.
Kids, wherever kids go and consume media, we try to be present there.
Okay.
So kids watch cartoons on kid channels. So we showcase ads on those channels.
Okay.
We communicate to them. Like we were on 15,000 cinema screens in the US last year when their favorite movie came out last year. So we try to connect with kids and explain to them this is what we are doing. And kids also, we've seen that kids love the character and the persona. And so that's
Oh, very cool. Nice. Never thought we'll have ads running for an Indian company like this. Lovely. I think we can move on to the building journey. The first set of questions are around IP and grants. Was any grant useful for you at the time when you started? Did you raise any grants or any incubators, accelerator programs?
You mean grant money?
Grant money?
None.
None.
I think during the early days, I don't recollect any grant money of sorts being out. Now there's so much grant money available, but I don't recollect that. And I think fundamentally, the mindset of I had a couple of seniors who were raising grants and running the company with grants. I think beyond a point, one needs to. It helps you in the initial journeys of doing R&D.
Yeah.
But then the sooner you get out of that and jump onto the commercial space, otherwise it's very important when you get out of that loop and jump onto the commercials. That sets you on the right path for growth.
Yeah, agree. And did you start with filing IPs initially?
Yes.
Initially itself. So you found the role of IP to be a major part of the business.
So I worked at Siemens Corporate R&D.
Okay.
And my we within our OKRs was ensuring that we have new IP created regularly.
Okay.
We learned a lot about the relevance of IP as a consequence of that, from a defensibility perspective and so on. So within our teams also, the role of IP filing has been there since the outset.
Okay.
And thinking out of the box, ensuring the entire organization comes up with ideas in and around the technology that we've built has always been there. So IP filing has been there since inception,
Okay,
but it has been strategically decided on what areas we want to focus on.
got it. Okay. And you wanted to focus on IP because you think in the category that you're playing, in the category that you are operating in, IP is going to have a lot of value in the future, or
Yes.
yes?
Absolutely. Fundamentally, what are we trying to do? This is man machine interaction. And you are trying to get man machine interaction at scale for a societal impact.
Right.
This is where we believe that I've always said this, that our society is incomplete. We are completing an incomplete society by bringing robots to our homes and helping us in day-to-day things. There, IP is going to play a very important role because the same technology that we've built within Miko has got 20 applications into multiple domains, from consumer to automotives to manufacturing to different domains. We got a request from a large manufacturing house in Europe where they wanted to do productivity analysis for the manufacturing factory line workers. They said, can Miko technology help us there to assess the attention spans of the factory workers, whether they're doing it right or not.
Okay.
Now that's a inbound interest that came in. So I'm saying the same technology has got multiple applications.
Right.
And that's the beauty of when you're building something that it is scalable into multiple domains in future whenever you have the resources and the bandwidth to do that. So therefore IP protection plays an important role there.
Got it. So you're looking at IP as something that could add to your revenue model in the revenues in the
Licensing.
Licensing, yeah.
But that is a possible option, but we've never built it into a model. But it is just that at an early stage in the past 10 years, we've never looked at filing IP from a money revenue perspective, but purely from a defensibility perspective. And
Got
then if something comes out of it, then great.
Got it. How much do you think one in the early beginning stage of building the company, how much time do you think people should spend on IP? Although of course depends on category to category, and there are a few companies, let's say, who are probably doing deep tech in medical space. They might need to do a lot of work there because they spend a lot of time in R&D before the product actually comes out. But here in consumer space, the product also has to come out, and that's probably top priority.
Yeah.
Get the product out
Agreed.
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Second, probably would be how to productionize it better. Third, probably would be IP or things like that, right?
So I think I would say that intellectual property is a necessary but not a sufficient condition for success. You should not keep that if you're doing foundational research as a company, the opportunity to connect with some startup founders who are doing truly foundational research, which takes years to see some light of the day. There, your IP is everything.
Correct.
And the consumer companies where time and priority and the capital ticking meter and everything is there, their IP plays a role, but at the same time comes down the pecking order, but it has to be there. It can't not be there anywhere. So that's where I would say that value the IP, but if you're quickly scaling it into a consumer like business or such kind of company where your path to market is very very short, that you need to quickly get there, then it has to be there, but in your priority has to be third, fourth on the list. But at the same time, if you're doing foundational stuff, then that's the number one top priority. That's what will give you and your investors an exit and grow the business.
Got it. It also adds defensibility in terms of China or any other companies around the world would be able to make something similar in the hardware space. And actually continuing to that, how much IP of yours would be on the software side versus hardware side?
Everything on the software side.
Okay.
And I think in today's day and age, if you are a consumer company, you need to be moving at the fastest pace possible.
Right.
Because I was giving you a simple example before we started. In the first year, drones was a novelty, where we saw that someone flying a drone this was 2008.
Yeah.
And by the time I was in my final year, I was finding it in consumer stores and people were able to buy it for 2, 3, 5,000 rupees. So there's a cycle of technology and the way it is there. That cycle today has gotten much shorter and things are rapidly moving. So the pace and the agility with which you move matters the most of all things. So if someone is in some part of the world is trying to sit and replicate what you're doing, I don't think any startup today has the resources to go and file a lawsuit on them.
Correct.
And no one has the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah.
Unless someone in your core market is coming and killing your own business, that's a very separate story.
Yeah.
Then you will bring all these things into picture.
Right.
But until then, no one has the bandwidth to literally go and do all of this. So defensibility, yes, in your core markets from today to your next 3 to 5 years, what all you want to do, no one else is becoming a roadblock. That's where your defensibility will come in. I think IP is defensibility from any direct head-on competitors. Second is long-term possibilities of entering new areas of business that your technology could do. You can leverage IP there.
Got it. Why do you think you have a larger size in the US as compared to India?
The focus on the US market was the growth that we saw and the depth of the market was very high. Like we didn't want to be the first ones to open a market in India. Like for example, it is whether you are the first one to create a new category and let the big guys come in, or versus the category exists and you're coming in at the right price point. We wanted to be the latter. So therefore over here we were doing well. Company business was growing very well, but then to scale it to a sizable revenue base, we would have to open the category and keep investing heavily into awareness for that category,
right,
which we didn't want to do. So there the category existed. That's why we went into the year. It was more of a commercial call of all things.
Okay. How many patents do you think you might have filed?
Just around a dozen, a little
Okay.
more than that. But yeah, so this is, and there's a constant effort of filing new. We got like I think some 7 new grants we got in the last 12 months.
Got
So
it.
there's a 2025 roadmap of crossing some 30 patents that the team is working towards, and ultimately get to a 100 patent portfolio house over the next few years.
Got it. But from the beginning, since you were bootstrapped, you've been focused on IP and you've been filing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
PCT anyways gives you a good
Yeah,
runway
yeah.
to file it and so on. PCT application is not expensive.
Right. So PCT you did India, US majorly.
Correct,
Right?
correct.
Got it. Sneh, let's move on to the prototyping journey of yours. How did the first prototype look like? And what background did you guys have to build something like this? And the basics are like Arduino and Raspberry Pi and things like that. Are there any specific robotic kits which are also available to do this?
So I'll give you some background about the founding team on
Yeah.
what kind of background they carried. We've been building robots since 2008. Through
Okay.
first year of college, through the very first month in college, we'd been building robots. And as most engineering colleges, you land up in a department which may not be you would want to pursue as your main department in the longer term. So like-minded folks like us, we formed a team of 20 guys who would participate in international robotic competitions and represent IIT Bombay in India. We used to raise the money for that, building the robots also from corporate. So it was like a organization in the building without the name of a company. So we used to raise some capital, set our own benchmark on and there were no academic credits to all of this. So each of this 20-25 people, this team that we had, today 4 or 5 of us are running startups, and our team members are all part of those companies. So therefore this mindset was always there, of the builder mindset was always there. And because of 5 years of building at IIT Bombay through a BTech and MTech, we were able to bring down the whiteboard concept to prototype level from 3 months to 15 days. As a consequence of that, we knew all the hacks to ensure that how we can get to a quality, and prototyping also has a quality benchmark to it. You can build a prototype that may just last for a few minutes in your hand and break apart, or that prototype has to be rugged enough to be lasting in a beta pilot. So that journey we knew as student years on how to make a rugged prototype. So we used to despise using Arduinos and BeagleBones because we knew that you can't have a product with it. That was first year mein pata pad gaya tha. But at the same time, it helps you at a lab level to check out things, whether things are working fine. But you cannot even deploy it in a beta. beta in a consumer company is extremely important, that you deploy the products, and
Correct.
our users are kids.
Yeah.
Our important aspect of our certification is it should withstand 8 feet drop tests
Yeah,
from
yeah.
all 6 sides. So therefore, for a child, it had to ensure that it's a rugged prototype, even if it's not a ready product for
Right.
them to do, for us to do a beta. So 50 to 100 units each should have a shelf life of a few months as a prototype is what the goal was.
Got it.
So we were able to quickly prototype this, and so we never, for an in-house hello world it works kind of, until that level an Arduino was fine, but there was a long journey beyond that as well. So for that we used to do a lot of 3D printing, build our custom electronics, print it, solder it or get it soldered, and then deployed it in the field, and so on. So therefore, this cycle is more time consuming than the POC. POC to 15 din mein we were able to do
The POC was based on some kits or no? That also had a custom design PCB.
everything.
Oh, nice.
We were, touchwood, we were very, very fast in designing complex systems. We could design a complex multi MCU system from a schematic to a BRD file within 48 to 72 hours. Like, and we had done a lot of these, so we quickly knew where things failed and so on. And ultimately, some of our team members used to take pride that our first iteration mein circuits were working and so on. So therefore, without any issue. So, but that had come after, I think, 2008 to 2013 of a lot of that journey was coming in to get that maturity.
Yeah.
And then after that, while we were in the corporate for a year and then forced that in the startup, so things could move very fast.
Right.
That advantage was always
Right.
there.
Got it. I think I completely align on the fact that folks who are in the robotics society or the Saha, the mechanical racing cars and all those things, a lot of them end up doing something related to hardware. A lot of my batchmates are also in some R&D division or the other, at least if not running a company, who we used to build the robots together or things like that. So I think that's the first step you take, and that's the first time you experience how a hardware product is built. I think
it teaches you everything. It does not just gives you the skills to build hardware. It teaches you how to build a complex engineering product to life, team building skills, project management skills.
Yeah.
All of those complete training comes through that. And I think whatever we did, we owe to those 5 years that we did at IIT Bombay of building those robots. And within Miko, we have an open door policy. If you have been a part of any such activity in your college, we don't look at your CGPA. You are in. We don't look at your department. You are straight welcome to the company. So we've had interview rounds where someone said, I was in an FSA team, I did this, interview done, offer letter rolled out, please come. So it's like, we know that requires and someone who's been at it for 2-3 years, and that requires a very different metal. It requires a strong, resilient mindset, and someone having demonstrated that in the second year, third year of college is a gold mine for any early stage company.
Correct.
So therefore, that is very clear for us.
I think one indication we get from that is also that these folks have a passion towards building mechanical hardware solutions, right?
Agreed.
And that's also very important, which we don't get to judge generally in an interview where people have worked on stuff as a job, right?
Correct.
And that's definitely true. But still, I want to understand. Would you have photos of your first prototype?
Yes.
You would have
a lot of them. I'll give it to you.
How big was it? And what did it do? The basic first prototype.
So I'll tell you, our first few iterations were completely different from even a companion-like thing. We did build companion. We initially thought of building a gaming system.
Okay.
And we thought of building a mixed reality gaming system.
Okay.
And our first prototype was basically you have a headgear on your face, and there's an actual robot roaming around, and there are objects in augmented reality, and that physical robot interacts with augmented objects, and the physics of that was brought to life. So we spent a month or two building that, and then we realized later on that, hey, Parents don't want to put a headgear on the child's face. It was being counterproductive. So, as I said, our early things that we tried to do was the whole journey of Miko has not been one night we realized let's do this and we kept optimizing on that path. It has been iteratively through almost 10 things that you try, 8 things didn't work, 2 things worked, use that data point to further take one step forward. That has been how we've operated. So we are all our initial prototypes would be there lying in some corner. We've taken different approaches. We tried multiple things, gaming systems to integrating a small subsystem into their existing things that they play with and so on. We did a lot of hacks to see what works out. Ultimately, we realized that children follow characters a lot.
Yeah.
They get influenced by characters, they listen to characters. I hated spinach when my mom used to say eat spinach, but when Popeye eats spinach, then and we see him flex his muscles after eating spinach, that character has an influence on us.
Yeah.
So any positive influence that a character can bring, and you can leverage AI and robotics to bring characters to life. So that's the whole play.
You mentioned about iterating on the initial prototypes itself. How were you able to verify, or what were you doing to verify that this iteration is working out, this is not working
So
out?
we did qualitative and quantitative surveys. So I think the journey starts with first you need to build a quality function diagram where you are able to do a qualitative need analysis and do a quantified weighted metric analysis to what subsystem will be in your product and see the relation between that. We learned it at the companies where I was at Siemens, my colleague was at Altair, and we have mega projects in engineering. What all we learned there, we tried to implement in consumer product building and so on. So once your QFD is ready, then you go to your prototyping stage, and it's an empirical journey to go there. Once you've built your prototypes, then you do a qualitative survey with parents, with kids, spend time with them for a few hours, see the early reactions. You get a very good eye view of, because for our product, the user and buyer is separate. So each one's interests have to be aligned. So then you do a quantitative survey. Basically, as people are using the backend metrics, you are trying to understand to see what is the cohort, what is the engagement, and then likewise you are then trying to arrive at a decision based on that beta that you've done.
Got it. So you employed all these strategies. Oh, that's very cool. I haven't heard a lot of startups do that.
We had a strong conviction at the outset, but we wanted to go down that conviction path with a pure data driven analysis as well as a each point your conviction has to marry what you are seeing from data, and this, so therefore that otherwise the cos theta angle will result into no output.
Yeah, and also because I also remember reading about so many things in design school, ways to survey focus groups, small things like that, environmental studies, observation studies, to understand what is the exact need of the user, right? Even before the user understands that. But hardly have I seen folks employing it, especially startups. Most of the startups would skip all this process, do hit and try, and get something. But then, of course, that's a very expensive way to do it. Right? Because every time you're doing that with a hardware product, you are spending 2-3 months to build it and then it fails.
Correct. That I think I owe it to learning these things at Siemens and my colleagues at other companies that it takes some amount of meticulous planning, but then it saves a lot of money, time, effort, and saves your team from a burnout also.
Agree. I think there are, thanks to the last century of mechanical innovations, we have a lot of innovation methodologies in place, which all these larger companies keep using. Correct. And there's a lot to borrow from that.
Correct.
I think somehow it's got missed in transition between our switch to a digital first economy. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How much did it cost to build your first functional prototypes? Or I think you had an iteration of maybe 10 units till you got to the final idea that this is what I'm going to work with.
I think we were spending at a per prototype level easily 50,000-60,000 rupees in 2016 to get the first prototypes out, where 3D printing was expensive. And getting PCBs printed and getting chips soldered, we used to solder it ourselves.
Okay.
So until the batch went on to 10 to 50 units, then we started giving it to third-party guys to solder it and so on. But I think we used to keep a benchmark that keep the cost between 60,000 to 1 lakh, sub that. The DFM prototypes just before manufacturing pre-production samples, they were expensive, like sub 3 to 5 lakhs of sorts.
Got it. The first 8 iterations that you had done,
23.
the 23 iterations that you've done, how many of those actually went to DFM as well?
One.
One, right? Yeah. Got it. And that DFM, and prior to that, everything was 50, 60, up to one.
Yeah.
Got it. And this happened over a period of 2 years.
Happened over 2 years.
Got it.
First batch was 200 units that went to first set of buyers. March
it.
2017.
And how did you fund this initial journey?
Friends and families. My father, my batchmate from IIT Bombay, Mirik, all of them put in some capital, and got that together to move things and get the prototypes out.
Got it. And what was the size of the
First round was 75 lakhs.
75 lakhs?
Then we got it to a prototype that could be demonstrated to angel investors.
Okay.
Because angel investors can't see 3D printed stuff. It had to be top quality prototypes. Even if the quality of 3D printing, that had to be a very good quality prototype which had to be there. So the intent was use that money to get to a demonstratable situation that your concept is not a whiteboard concept. So we got our first angel investor, who was Mr. Keshav Murugesh. His family office has been instrumental. They've invested in every round and supported us since 2016 and so on. So he and his friends put together 4 crores in the company, and then we got that helped us to get into manufacturing. And so we went from a whiteboard concept to retail in 4.75 crores.
Oh, very cool. And how long did that DFM journey take?
9 months.
9 months.
Yes.
So 9 months in just going back and forth on design to manufacture.
Correct. From once you've frozen your prototype to getting it into an assembly line, which is getting units out, which includes tooling, pre-production trials, all of that took 9 months.
Got it. On the first functional prototype, how many people are involved?
6 to 7.
6 to 7. Got it. And few people were on your payroll.
All of them were on our payroll.
All of them were on payroll, apart from the founders. And you mentioned founders did not take salary for 3 years. So you mentioned the first set of investors, family friends, then angel groups. The first product that you, the prototype that you showed to the angel investor, that was not injection molded, right?
That was not injection molded.
High quality 3D printing.
High quality 3D printing.
Got it. And you had that in Mumbai?
We got it from France at that point.
Oh, wow.
So we had got it done from there. But then now we get those quality 3D printing, everything is available over here. But then we used to work with a vendor from there, and then we got it done.
Got it. So after the prototype, things changed. Angel investor money came. Then you wanted to retail with the first 4 or 5 CR within those 2 years.
First 2.5 years. So I think 2015 Jan when we started.
No, so 75L came in the beginning.
15.
That gave you a runway of about 1 year.
Yeah, sort of.
1.5 years, and then after 1 year you raised this angel.
2016 we raised the angel round.
Got it.
And then 2017 we did all our go-to-market, door-to-door selling and getting into retail.
Got it.
And then 2018 April was our first institutional round.
Got it. And how did that happen? What changed that an institutional or VC would probably come in?
I think broadly we've been, to be very honest, we've been very fortunate to have the right side of investors on board. I remember this was last quarter of calendar year 2017, and I was with meeting Chirate Ventures chairman Mr. Sudhir Sethi sir, and I was in his office and I said, this is what we built. And he said, oh, and he got so excited that I would like my grandchildren to try it. And he bought 2 Mikos there itself. And he learned about what we were doing for the past 2.5 years. So he got super excited that, hey, these guys have built a product with so much passion for the past 2.5 years. So he called another of his colleague from another VC firm. He called in Dr. Vivek Mansingh, and in 30 minutes I was put in a car and I was sent to his home, and who was a partner at YourNest. He had a background of working with Steve Jobs and Michael Dell
Oh, I didn't know that.
and John Chambers. So he came from a thorough product background, and he told me, Sneh, keep your pitch deck aside. Product कैसे बनाया ये बताओ. So we sat for 2-3 hours and I explained, so this is what we did, this is how it is, this is every feature, this is the subsystem, this is where we'll take it to. So then he said, very good. He was very convinced. So I think they spoke, and I think in a matter of few weeks the round closed.
Very cool.
I think if I look at our entire journey of raising capital, 2015 I must have spoken to not less than 500 investors. And imagine me telling investors that we are building a robot that will become a friend of a child, like bringing Jetsons to life, and that too in India. So ban jaye jab bike tab batana. That's how the response used to come.
Yeah.
So a lot of learning. I mean, we literally didn't know how to pitch a company also at that point. I wouldn't blame the investors. We were ourselves first generation entrepreneurs, never having raised any form of capital to do anything. So the first set of investors who put in money, to the institutional investors, the common thread to our last investors who put in money in the last round, the common thread of all the investors who put in money into Miko has always been they've had a strong operating experience of running a business. All of them, whether they are VCs, whether they are angels, whether they are family offices, we've seen a common thread that they have run businesses, they have seen how businesses have been built, they've been in executive roles in large companies, having grown from 100 to 1000 or from 0 to 1. Some element of building has always been there in them.
Okay.
Not necessarily products, not necessarily businesses. So that has been the common, anyone who has been involved and who's been impressed with our journey, they build businesses. So they relate to our challenges. If very well. So if I know that at 3 a.m. at night, I can call any of my board member and say that, look, this is a situation that is there. We've solved for it. This is what we've done. And they appreciate this also because they've also run businesses.
Right.
So therefore, I think if you're working on a path of building a hardware company, ensure that you get the right investors who have walked that path in some form or the other. Not necessarily built a hardware company, but even had some form of experience so that they can relate to your journey more than someone who's just coming with an academic degree in investing. Well, someone who's just purely looking at countless number of investment models and journeys and so on, early stage backing will not come to you from that kind of person. For us, through Mr. Keshav Murugesh, through Mr. Sudhir Sethi, Mr. Sunil Goyal from YourNest, Dr. Vivek Mansingh, Mr. Satish Muglawali, be it name any of our investors, Ivy Cap Ventures, or any of them, you would see this trend that they are all builders. They've all built organizations. They've seen this. They've seen that journey. Mankind Pharma is one of our very strong investors in the company. They've been build the company for 25-30 years. So they've seen the journey of building. So they relate to what you're doing. If you go to an investor who's primarily, no offense, but who's primarily been into an academic journey, done an MBA, got into investing, they will never relate to your journey. They will appreciate it. But I think the ups and downs, they
might appreciate, but then the time it takes to deep dive and understand what we've done, that also is something which is going to take a very long time for people who haven't done before.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Agree.
So be very careful in who you're approaching as your investors, and put your filters. Don't go to every investor who has an investor tag to them. Put your filters on board that, hey, this is what is there. So once those filters are there, then it will be a lot more meaningful use of your time and that investor's time as well.
Got it. No, I think that's very helpful. And so overall, how much have you raised so far?
I think overall we've raised some $50 million. Now we'll be going through our Series D for our next raise and so on. Which will be there.
And this you will be raising for?
This would be primarily for AI R&D.
Okay.
For new market expansion, some acquisitions that we want to do.
Okay.
Primarily for that.
Got it.
But I think at the back end of it, there is a lot of AI that is built over the past 10 years. And because of all that's happening, we need to continue to stay ahead of of the foundational stuff that we've done over the past few years. That's why we're raising some capital.
Got it. If you were to raise again, how much would you raise? Considering a decent cap on how much anyone can raise as well.
I think raise the same amount actually. I mean, at today the market and the way the market is today, the ecosystem is a lot more mature. You could probably do things much faster today than what you could do in 2015.
Okay.
But at the same time, raising a lot of capital unnecessarily adds a lot of you should not want to grow too faster than what it is possible at that point of time. It hits back
Right.
very, very bad. So therefore, I think we are being slightly cashed out is essential for the early years. Well, you should not always have too much capital at your hands. So being slightly cashed out it puts an important trait of conscious growth levels that you're trying to target. And that balance is necessary, that your market demand is also growing at the rate at which you want to grow.
Yeah.
And not if market demand grows faster than your aspired growth rate, then there's a problem. And if your desired growth rate is much faster than what the market is, then you result into a bigger problem. So therefore, I think for this kind of company where there is device plus there is content, there's subscription, there is bunch of these angles which come in, and you are walking on new markets and expanding, I think this amount of capital is showcasing a good amount of cash efficiency in terms of utilization. So I guess we would raise that much.
Got it. But let's say if you had to raise again, or if someone is getting into the sector, and considering that we are also trying to, impart knowledge about how to get building faster, get the product faster, do you think there is any advantage in raising a larger amount of money?
So first of all, as a founder, do the math on how much cash you need. Multiply it by 3 times and raise that cash.
Okay.
Because so the first question was that whether Miko would raise more cash than normal. No, we would raise as much, but because we realized it very early on that you will need a lot of cash as well, then what you budget things for.
Right.
So once you do your math on whatever is needed, things won't work out a lot of times, and you will need an additional runway. You will need some more working capital. You will need some more things to make and break and so on. So therefore, always raise a good cash cushion over what need, because then so that you don't start focusing on optimizing on day-to-day operations rather than you're focused on the tomorrow and not on the past.
Yeah. And specifically only on the R&D part of things, if we had to raise a round for building idea to prototype to product, how much do you think one should raise to build something in a similar space, let's say?
I think minimum, if you're in an early stage, $1 million to $2 million would be essential, is what you should absolutely raise at that point of time.
Right, and beyond that, there will be commercialization, so there's some expense there as
well.
So
I think what milestone you commit to your investor is absolutely crucial. Yeah. It shouldn't happen that you got your product to manufacturability, but then you don't have the resources to enter the market.
Right.
So, I mean, we did that mistake at that point of view, that our product will be manufacturable ready. But then after that, what? Now there's no cash left to further build the inventory and sell it in.
Right.
So therefore, you should position your milestone that you've demonstrated a growth metric in terms of commercialization, and that's when you would raise capital and assume that it will take 6 months to raise capital. So that's the kind of runway that you should factor in and plan for.
And in general, let's say considering that 6 months it takes to close a round, right? Generally, you should have runway enough for 2 years, 1.5, 2 years.
Yeah, easily.
Right.
Easily.
Got it. One question on the investment side: there must have been folks who would have asked you, what if a Chinese player comes in and builds something similar? What is a typical, what would a response be for that?
See, I think it's not just about Chinese, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
It could be any large entity, it could be a Chinese, it could be some large tech company in the world getting into the space and so on. The most simple answer to that is there is no way that you can say that I have a foolproof way to that situation. What you basically say, you'll be the most agile company, most customer obsessed company that would be there. Overall, that would be focused onto the consumer, and you would have demonstrated that your focus is not uh, on IP in hardware. We are not a material science or a sensor design company which is trying to have IP in the hardware. The IP lies in the software, in the enabler, in the personalization, in the AI. That's where your IP lies. So the form factor and device is immaterial of a Chinese, Vietnamese, Taiwanese trying to get into the space. No, it is about you building the technology, addressing a need at a good margin, and rapidly scaling from there. So if you are having growth trajectory which is a rapid scale in itself, by the time someone enters in, you would have been further ahead of time and so on. So I think good investors don't ask that questions. They look at the track record and they pretty much, they know that there's no, it's just a way to think how you perceive it. But yeah, that's about that.
Got it. Makes sense. I think apart from the IP and software part of it, the brand could also play a major role.
Brand also plays an important role.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
If you are, let's say, playing only on the cost, then it's a problem.
Then it's a problem. The stickiness of the brand, the recall of the brand, where people come looking for that brand and so on. So that plays that role.
Yeah. Got it.
Differentiated business model, technology moat, strong customer obsession, and quick agility. These are the 4 things.
No, agreed. Anything in specific in India retail which was very difficult to crack? Because I as you mentioned, I think there was no category which this product fell into.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more than the difficulty part of it, we realized that we would have to communicate to people, so we needed people feet on street to communicate it. So once I was one of the retail sales guys standing on the store and selling a product for a month, just to understand what pitch works with the consumer. So once we arrived at the pitch, then we started doing sales training for the whole staff. Then we started having a team of store promoters who were standing in the store and selling the product, and then that journey started. I think the retail, our background came from a technology background. Soon we realized we need to stop thinking tech and think consumer. Then after thinking consumer, we realized we need to start thinking as a salesman. So then the sales angle started kicking in. So our mindset also has seen a shift every year on what is needed at what stage of the company. And we've been adapting to the need of the requirement of the organization likewise.
Yeah. I think as a leadership, I think you'll have to have multiple hats.
Have to do what it takes.
Yeah. Got it. And the 2 retail stores that you were into were
Hamleys and
Chroma. Oh, Chroma has footfall for kids as well?
So that was one of the challenges. A lot of areas where probably you don't have dedicated footfall of kids coming in and so on, how do you showcase to them? So what it has also worked in some gadget stores and some electronic stores also, when parents are coming to shop for their gadgets, they want their kids to be engaged onto something while they are busy finding products and so on. So it has worked in that way also, where kids can explore some of their own products and come back while parents are busy choosing their laptops and their washing machines and so on. So but it depends on how well the product is positioned and in what section of the store and what affinity does it have to kids and so on. So a lot of factors come into play over there. So there is an audience for that as well.
Very nice. And the store managers or representatives know about this?
Absolutely. I mean, there's the retail churn of an in-store staff. Typically in India, we were seeing that the staff changes by 30% every month. New people come in, old people are moving out and so on, and that churn is very high in store and retail across most chains. So continuous retraining on what needs to be communicated, because the way it's very easy for a store sales guy to dilute your brand and all the efforts that you've done to completely undervalue your proposition. So you need to be at the top of your game to ensure that every person is trained, retrained. The words that they're using about your company and how they're positioning the product, what they are saying has to be, there's an effort that needs to go into that continuously. That discipline is a must. And that does not necessarily go only to your retail store staff guys.
Yeah.
It goes to your customer support, it goes to your employees, it goes to your investors also
Right.
when they are talking about your company on how are they positioning the company. So it has to be consistent everywhere.
Got it. Okay. Deep diving more in the sales journey, you started with India, retail. Was retail the major channel through which you were
80%.
selling? 80%. Got it. Rest of it, Amazon.
Yeah, because marketing budget tha nahi pehle.
Oh, right.
So we were basically initial years were all push selling from retail.
Got it. And in the US now, channels?
It was flipped. Initially was all online first 2-3 years and then retail came in.
By online you mean?
Our website, Amazon, other marketplaces.
Okay. Got it. So both of them are working. And the distribution channels or marketing wise, it was again like cinema screens and things like that.
Yeah. So we do full 360 campaigns. You would find Miko at a Times Square in the holiday season. You would find Miko at cinema screens, at TV ads. You would find Miko at popular TV shows and so on across all platforms.
Okay.
We do 360-degree marketing on billboards as well. So we do 360 marketing for Miko in the US. And from there, we see there's a whole cycle of sales that follows from September to December.
Okay. Very nice. And then, how has it evolved in the US then? You mentioned now it's retail. Right?
So now retail has kicked in. Big box retail has picked up the brand and the product over the years. And we've started seeing strong awareness levels in the audiences where people are aware about the brand. They come looking into the store for looking for the product and so on. Just one single store in the US last holiday, one single outlet sold 700 units in the month of December.
Oh wow!
Just one store. So
that's a big number.
And so they had people who were coming. I've seen this. We're looking for this color. Very beautiful. We've seen it from being a push brand to a pull brand. That journey we've seen, and hopefully we'll continue to build it in a much better manner.
Very nice. Did it take some time to get the retail started, or you
It's a
focused
process.
on it? Okay.
It's a process where typically they have a certain buying cycle. The larger the retailer, the different the buying cycles that they have. The company's innovation cycle has to marry the buyer's buying cycle as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, for them, a lot of these retail chains would also, there is difference of some guys would want to position it as new and emerging tech. Some guys would want to position it as which department and so on and so forth. So therefore, each buyer and their buying cycles, it took us almost 3 years to crack it. 3 to 4 years to crack it.
Oh, got it. And these are large retailers or?
Largest of the world.
Oh, got it. And it takes that amount of time
That
to
amount of
get
time, especially if your product is from a niche category.
Okay.
If you are selling smartphones, then I think it would be much faster.
Yeah.
Where-
For us, it's been slightly faster.
Correct.
I mean, of course, we have done some things right, but for us, it's been a little faster.
And typically, I think each category, the buyers have, if you're at a $200 price point, like this one's at a $200 price point, this one's at a $100 price point, $100 becomes a sweet spot for a lot of retailers.
Yeah.
So then and so forth. So therefore, like a lot of retailers won't even take anything in the store shelf which is more than $100 for our category. Like a lot of, you have, each buyer and each retail chain has their own constraints, but finally we've made it through that.
Got it. Finally, let's get to the building journey. We'll go a little deep in this. How many people were involved in building the first prototype? You mentioned 7.
That's right.
Right. Then how did you hire for the next set of people to get from once you finalize that this is the proto I'm going to go with, and then to productionize it further?
So basically we expanded the team to around 25-30 people from there to look at different aspects of the product, from firmware to content to experience to UX to so on. And Miko has 14 disciplines even today. Like there is like engineers, artists, mathematicians, designers, psychologists, teachers, good mix of product people and so on. So very soon in the early days we realized that we need people from psychology background, pediatrics background. into the company. We can't be just having techies hacking around stuff on circuits and so on. So we started bringing childcare experts to give their views on how children are thinking, how parents are thinking, and then we are designing the product based on that. So to go from POC to manufacturing, we grew to a team of 25-30 people, which was sufficient, and a sales team of 5 to 10 people overall that was there. And gradually to subsequent products and so on, now we've scaled to a 250-275 membered organization, excluding the manufacturing team who gets involved into the assembly and so on. So that's that.
Got it. And did you have any parts outsourced as well? The design part of it or DFM itself?
No, I think DFM is a process that you do with your manufacturing partner.
Right.
And you closely work with them to ensure that it can be scaled into millions of units.
Yeah.
So they, with their expertise, will guide that where do you need to have the supports in the jigs, in the tools to ensure that it's a scalable
Right.
product. And until that point, so after that, it's a hand in glove working with your manufacturing partner.
Right.
That's how it is.
And even in the early stages of design, do you have folks in-house or you used to?
All in-house, but because of the competitions that we used to do, we used to have a strong network of freelancers from Israel, from Ukraine, from Singapore, from US.
What were these competitions?
So we are robotic competitions where you used to get international robotic competitions, people used to come. So we had a network of people from each of these universities.
Oh, is it?
And so our first industrial design was come from a guy who was an ex-Apple industrial designer. He helped us on the industrial design front. There was a guy who got the shape. He's a Ukrainian guy who we still stay in touch with. So we used to, wherever we used to need a spike in excellence in certain area where probably getting in-house talent was a task of a few months or it was very difficult, then we used to reach out to a network of people that we had formed over the years and get them, this is the problem statement, let's solve it over 2-3 months, and that's it. And long-standing partners, all of them, to get to that point and so on. So this is
Got it. Nice. And then the PCB design, material selection, all was in-house.
in-house.
Got
Everything.
it. And I think you have a very, comparing the folks I've met, Mumbai has not been a destination for running a manufacturing business as such, as far as I know. But would love to get your view on that.
See, very simply, I think the journey of Miko is a very unique journey. The kind of resources and people that you need are not necessarily found, is not easily found. And you need a good mix of people who are genuinely interested to solve that problem, to come together under one roof. For us, our initial days, we had a strong grip on the manufacturing ecosystem of getting prototypes out in Mumbai. We knew in every corner what needs to be done within the town to get your prototypes to life.
Okay.
So the first threat was being there. I was not too keen about Bangalore because I lived in Bangalore myself. I love the weather. There's no doubt about it. But the transport ecosystem was in 2013 also was on the verge of collapse pretty much. So we thought that 10 years, 20 years down the line, what will be the state? We don't know. So we took a call. It had to be either Hyderabad or Bombay. Within that, a lot of resources that come within Miko are folks who've done their PhDs and masters from the US. They are coming back to India to be closer to the family and probably do not want to be are looking for unique opportunities, and the kind of opportunity in Miko is quite appealing. So they prefer to, it's okay, let's settle in Mumbai. And so we have a bunch of these folks who've done their masters from the US. They come here, settled in Mumbai, and post-COVID hybrid culture is very common.
Right.
So we have almost say 40% of our resources spread across India who come in for strategy meetings once in a month, stay for a week, and then they go back to their base and so on.
Oh.
So that is also a common thing which is there. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I think for us within Mumbai, connectivity was extremely crucial. we thought that if employees have to come to office, they have to be very easily accessible to any point. Powai was a big startup hub. It is a big startup hub, but getting to Powai for a non-Powai resident is a task in itself. So we wanted people to be easily getting to office without, so Central Line, Western Line, Harbour Line all get to Dadar. Everything comes, Dadar is like the central nodal point of all communication for all public transports. So we set up a base in Dadar, and thankfully it becomes easy. Even folks who are coming from Navi Mumbai, who are folks who are coming from far off, they can get to Dadar by a single train and so on. No need to switch trains. So that's keeping that in mind. I think we set up the base in Dadar. Now we have 3 offices around there, and it's growing well overall from there. I think we have to look at ease of commute for employees. Thankfully, attracting talent wasn't a major challenge through early days and so on, because this kind of work was very unique and very, very fascinating. So it's, you tell someone this is what you're doing, you'll get you're building the same apps, doing the same stuff in other companies. I would rather do this. So we've had people shift from Bangalore, take pay cuts and shift from Bangalore. That this is from the existing job, I don't want this. This is the work that I want to do. I'm okay to work at the company 10% lesser, but let's do this and so on.
Oh, very cool. And but you have manufacturers for most parts here, like PCB fabrication is also happening around Mumbai somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
For prototyping, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's important.
For production is a separate story, but for prototyping, yes.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. And at what stage did you decide that I want to invest in injection mold?
Oh, so once the beta testing is done,
beta testing was how long? What was it? What was the whole beta testing like?
So as I said, we did 23 product pilots across 50,000 plus kids. So we almost had like 50 to 100 units being tested with kids giving feedback and families giving feedback and so on. So once that was there, then we went into pre-production samples, which is like a pre-tooling sample which you make from to see that whether how the final look and feel and everything will look like. After that sample is done, and you always have a focus on that there's an order book being created of some form. I think the feedback to most founders would be focus on your channel of sales. Where will your first set of orders come from before you jump into tooling? Once you know that I will get my beta is done, that means there's a demand for what I'm doing, and my first set of orders will come from these channels, then you can get into tooling and so on. I would not recommend jumping onto tooling without knowing what your channel is. It could be as simple as doing a launch with Amazon. It could be doing a Kickstarter. It could be doing. It could be doing as long as there's some visibility, at least on paper level of where your first income, first PO, first order will come from. And you would need this much, then you get into the tooling. It's not more than the cost. You're building an asset of tool which can, before you incur that expense, have some visibility on your channel.
Got it. And do you think the channel will also change anything in the production? No, right?
No.
Got
it. A lot of retailers may ask you to make exclusive SKUs themed as per their retail brand guidelines.
Yeah, but then nobody.
Early stage startups, I would say, don't do it. It's too much. Keep business simple.
Yeah.
Avoid multiple SKUs. Just keep life easy.
Yeah. Can't say much on that. We have 50 different SKUs. Now, we had the prototype build. You mentioned you had some people involved at that time. Did you start manufacturing yourself, or you outsourced it?
Outsourced it.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Okay.
That's not in the DNA.
Okay. And how did that process start? Did you always have that thought, or?
100%.
Okay.
Manufacturing is a very different DNA where we had to design, develop, marketing, distribution.
Yeah.
So every aspect of the manufacturing is tightly controlled by us. That's fine. But us doing the manufacturing, we didn't have the DNA or the discipline to do that. So we used to work with partners who are large partners, who, while at the stage of the company, we have to work with partners where they are significantly larger than us, but they should not be so large also that our business becomes a rounding off error for them.
Yeah.
So therefore they have to be sizable partners who work hand in glove with you for the next few decades, And so choosing your manufacturing partner is a very crucial task of this journey, where they appreciate your presence as a customer. They're giving you the value and time which you need, which they have to, and they are emotionally invested in your brand as well to grow the business. So that's identifying such set of folks, not only to the guys who are assembling your product, but at the same time to the guys who are giving you subparts, subsystems, batteries, displays, everything. So all of them have to be aligned for your vision. Only then it works.
And even the injection molding partners or things like that, they manage it, or you are
The assembler guys, they have the whole
take care of
network
everything.
who will help
Got
you
it.
with it.
So in the first go itself, once you decided that we're going for DFM production, you decided to work with this partner.
Yeah.
Right? And then everything related to production, they were managing.
Yes.
Including sourcing.
So basically, we identified every subpart supplier also. So if it is motors, we went to the top 5 motor suppliers in the world.
Okay.
And we saw who to work with. Then we finalized the price. Then we went to the assembler that, okay, this is the guy. If he had a better supplier, then we go with that supplier who would better price, better quality, and so on. So once your 30, 40 sub-suppliers are ready, then ultimately you give your orders to your main manufacturer and they will work from there.
Got it. And how would you evaluate working with a EMS partner like this? What do you think are the checks which one should do?
I think one is the necessary parts of your product, whether they have the manufacturing facilities that is needed in place. Today's stage, 3 years later, do they have the scale? Will they be able to scale it to the next decade of your requirements and so on? Can they ensure the certifications of your products are in place, which is a very important aspect? Is their manufacturing base compliant by the requirements of your category? Do they understand the certification requirements across the globe for every country, what is needed, and ensuring that they adhere to it? Are there any, are all the ESG aspects compliant? No child labor, everything, all of those aspects and quality checks are in place. Cleanliness, safety, all of those aspects, there's a checklist of these things.
Right.
After that, the most important thing is the person who you're working with. Is that person truly invested in your business, understands the cycles of your business? Is that person willing to be with you on board for the next decade or two? Investors also have a horizon for investing and exiting.
Yeah.
But a manufacturer is not like that. He or she is going to be there with you from today until your company survives and goes on to whatever stage it is. You need to have lot more thought process on the person. It's not about the machines, it's about the people behind the machines. That's what my father always says. So therefore, you look at the team of the manufacturing partner, whether they are truly invested into you and focused on the vision, then you give all out and work with them.
Got it. And you had met multiple folks before finalizing this, right?
Almost 20.
Almost 20. All 20 mid to large.
Mid to large.
Got it. Didn't explore any smaller partners?
We tried. Sab kiya. We went to small partners as well. And then we realized that there may be some...
All over India?
All over India, across all neighboring countries, everywhere.
Oh, is it?
Everything.
Okay.
We did a thorough search of a lot of things. Flexibility of working, how are they looking at terms, everything. You'll put a grid of evaluation, and at the end of it, a lot of times you weigh it against the quantitative and qualitative aspects and take a call.
Got it. And what was the first order size that you must have given? Per month or the year?
In the first run we had given was for 2,000 units.
2,000.
From which the first batch we asked for 200 units. He was flexible enough to give that. And then after that we started giving orders in 5,000 unit lots. Then they become 20,000, then 50,000. And now we do 200 kk lots and so on.
Nice. And the first 2,000 happened in how many months after the production actually started?
Week.
A week? Okay. Got it. So, but then I assume the manufacturing process of building or assembling the whole product is not very complex.
It is.
It is?
200 people needed to assemble one Miko.
Really?
Yeah. And
So many
because of the
components,
sensors and the placement, there are 16 QA steps in the whole process of all the sensors working fine, every test that happens and so on, and finally pack out and ship out and so on. So therefore, it's a long process. But today we are able to do it at at a peak of 5 to 6,000 units a day.
Got it. How many people involved in this? Operators for
I
assembly?
think you can assume 4 production lines,
4 production lines.
each having 100, 150 people or so. करके उसमें हो जाता
Got it. You mentioned 200 people
है. In one assembly
in
line.
one assembly line. Got it. How many components do you think go inside this?
250 to 300,
250 to 300, including all components, PCBs, everything.
everything.
Oh, quite large. Probably I'll buy one and open it up. So you started production in 2018,
Started production in 2017,
2017.
early.
Got it. And then you were in the US in what?
2019.
2019.
That's right.
Got it. And then did COVID affect any production?
Oh, of course. I mean, we had to build a new product in the Omicron variant stage. We launched Miko 3 in 2021 holiday. So in a 9-month period, we went from a whiteboard concept to manufacturing ready and shipping to 100 plus countries. So in a lockdown situation, when you have a multidisciplinary team who can't get to office, you have to think very non-linear to get to where you have to get to. So we, at that point of time, we tried doing work from home and using peer-to-peer courier service to send prototypes from one home to the other, but it was 2 weeks we realized it's not happening. So we called all our hardware folks, around 9 or 12 of them, into a large Airbnb in Mumbai, like a 5 BHK Airbnb in Mumbai. And we rented it for 3 months. And we put 2 cooks and 2 PlayStations inside. And we made 1 room electronics room, 1 room mechanical room, 1 room software room, and so on. And we put some 3D printers in. We went from a complete whiteboard concept to DFM in 3 months time frame. So this was from April, May, June is when we went to JFM. It was all ideation and PRDs and so on. And after that, we went into this stage, and we started assembling the product from July, August, September onwards. And ultimately, we went live online, got orders from across the globe on our marketing campaigns, and freight containers and shipping containers were not moving out of the country. There was a huge short port blocks from Asia to US. So we couriered every single unit to every customer's home and ensured that 99.6% orders are fulfilled on time.
Wow.
Of course, we incurred a loss of trying to, we didn't make a profit to the tunes at what we wanted to, but I think it was necessary to ensure that our commitment that we gave to our customers was met. And the 0.4% orders were basically, I think, Alaska shipments didn't get there on time or something. But otherwise we got through all the orders that were there, and up to December 21st, 2021, all the orders were delivered before the holiday kicks in and so on. So I think this whole episode and this is one of them. Every year, every season, every quarter, there are a bunch of these things that we're thankful that we have a very strong team that is super resilient, which has demonstrated. Someone rightly described what this nature is to me. They call it anti-fragile, where a situation comes, the guys figure a way to not only come out of it, but also grow the business from there. So I think kudos to the whole team to having pulled this off like this.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, can't imagine how COVID would have been, but
Yes.
used it in the right manner. Did you have any issues with quality control, anything like that?
I think initial days, initial production runs, always you have certain challenges during the teething phase of the early years. But then we started indigenizing the entire QA process. An automated QA process is there, and cloud monitoring of the entire QA process was also built by us. So every unit serial number gets mapped, and the QA checklist of what all checks it has cleared gets cloud mapped. So we know that serial number has mapped and cleared all these tests and so on. This all test jig was done by us, and we give the test jigs to the manufacturers to use and so on, so that we get a complete hang of every serial numbers and its health. So once that is done, then it's a very clear, straightforward process. We know where the breakages are, and then you add a QA step to that and ensure that nothing comes out of it. regardless. So, but then once that whole process is set in, then it's watertight.
Got it. And just wanted to close on how many people do you think are needed at a company's stage for a similar product at R&D, early prototype to production, and then beyond production, actually we can go till production. And after that you are, let's say, have a manufacturing partner who's doing things for you.
I think for a company in this category, typically you can get into manufacturing with as low as 20 people. From prototype to production in less than 20 people is what you can typically try to do. Then as the scope of the product increases, then you start having product managers and their respective teams for different aspects, and the teams increase. But bare minimum, I think, but it varies across categories, but at least 10 to 20 is more than enough.
Got it. This would also include your managers around sourcing, quality.
Everything.
Got it.
Yeah,
so you have in-house quality and sourcing folks as well.
Everything. Yes.
Even though production is happening
Yes.
separately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So their work is to majorly keep a check on things, whether it's happening.
Ensuring supplier relationships, the whole coordination is happening in properly. There's a logistics team that ensures that movement of parts and movement of finished products is across different countries is happening on time.
Got it.
So all of that. That would be like, this is your bare minimum early stage where you have one guy for logistics, one guy for supply chain, one guy for electronic. Like that level is what I'm saying.
Cool. I think that's all we wanted to cover. Sneh, thank you so much.
Super.
This is super helpful. Just wanted to understand what's next for you.
Keep building. Still day one. I think we want to build this company for the next few decades, and positively impact 10 million lives.
Awesome. Hope hearing your journey has inspired a few folks here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, it's inspiration for me itself.
Thank you.
Been hearing about Miko for quite some time. I remember in 2019 when I heard about Miko going to the US and being a large success at that time. I remember looking and searching for the Miko products and retail stores. Yeah, what is this? But very exciting.
Thank you.
Good luck, and hope this helps folks
Thank
to
you so
reduce
much.
their building journey, to building idea to production journey, and make it simpler for anyone starting out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks.